Hello, everybody. Welcome to Two Mediums and a Large. We're back today. My name is Lara. I'm with Robbie and Heather as usual. Today, we're just going to have some open conversations. Robbie, do you want to get this one started?
Yeah, I do. Actually, first of all, I had a pretty okay week. I hope you guys did too. Something I did want to start off talking about today, and I wrote some notes on everything we talk about because one, I'm getting old and I forget easy, and two, some of this information and some of these things I think were channeled. And as you guys know, when things get channeled, you often forget them. So I wanted to make sure I wrote them down when they were coming. But the first thing I wanted to kind of talk about is something that I don't think a lot of people in the spiritual community are really addressing or talking right now. And that's kind of the state of where we are in the United States as a country in the world right now. And a lot of people are scared. A lot of people are scared right now or confused, or they're bracing for something that they don't know what's coming next. There's a lot of heaviness in the air. Everything just seems to be happening at the same time. So if you've been feeling off or exhausted or irritable or just at this moment where you don't know what to do, I want you to know that it's not a weakness. Okay. Fear is not a weakness. It's what uncertainty does to our nervous system. We're uncertain of things. And so it puts us in um this fear basis. And I really didn't want to offer spiritual platitudes right now. I don't want to offer love always conquers darkness, although I do believe that. I do believe that sometimes we go into a form of spiritual bypassing and don't recognize that we live in a 3D world on this earth for a reason, and we have to experience these things. Instead, I wanted to offer some things that are more real, that will help you feel a little more grounded when everything feels unsteady. So the first thing that I wanted to say was basically um, name your reality, live in it. Okay. When the future feels unpredictable, like I said, your body goes into this alert mode. It doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. It means that your body is doing its job. Okay. Um, but normalizing fear without feeding into it, right? Fear is information. It's not failure. But panic comes when fear has nowhere else to go. Okay. So fear isn't the enemy. Uncontained fear is. Okay. So let's talk about some things that can help you feel a bit better. One thing is to shrink the timeline. I know that we're all used to thinking about things of terms in what is going to happen for the next year, what's going to happen for the next 5 years. You don't need to survive next year. Sometimes you just need to survive this week. Sometimes you just need to survive today.
Yeah.
Let that be your timeline. Okay. Don't focus so much on what's happening tomorrow. Focus on what you can do to regulate today. Okay. Um, some simple ways to kind of contain the chaos is to choose when you engage with the news that you're hearing. Stop flooding your system all the time with all the bad news coming in. Staying informed is great, but it's different than staying flooded. That will take you to a place where you can't get out of. Um, do something stabilizing every day. One small thing. Find one thing that you can create a rhythm out of. One safe relationship, one something that you can repeat every single day. You don't you don't need to control things. You just need things to anchor you out of the fear. Okay. Um, One important thing is to let your emotions move you rather than to drive you. Okay. You can feel what you feel, but you can also choose how you respond to it. And I know maybe that may not make sense, but you can choose to not feed the fear more with more fear. I understand the fear. Believe me, I'm fearful. But the more that we're grounded and staying in the present and living in the present, the better you will feel. Okay. It's not going to take the problem away. It's not going to make us feel 100%. But if you can stay grounded, that's great. Um, with me being spiritual, one thing I do want to say is I can believe everything I want to believe about what's going to come, but it's not going to help other people unless I can reach them. Okay. But my spirituality is an escape from reality. Okay. I'm not going to ignore what's going on and just live in a different version of me that I don't want to deal with things here that are going on. So deal with it, feel it, understand that that's what's going on. Um, Spirituality isn't about rising above reality. It's about being able to stay steady inside of it. Okay. So keep that in mind. Um, I guess just to close this out, I guess I should just say that you don't need all the answers right now. You don't have to be brave all the time. You don't have to spiritually outperform anybody. Staying human in uncertain times is enough. Take today one step at a time, regulate your system the way you know how, take a bath, do breathing exercises, do something to regulate your system so you're not in a state of constant fear. Stay connected with each other, stay connected with me. Um, Whatever happens, uh, we'll meet it when it comes and we'll meet it together because I'm there with you. And just remember, there are a lot more people feeling the same way you are that aren't, and lean into that for support. And that's really what I wanted to say about that. I hope it helps. I'm not sure if it will, but I think it's important for me as somebody who sees myself as a spiritual leader to step out and say, we need to be real with this and not bypass it with our spirituality and understand there are people out there having problems and those of us that have the ability to help them when you can. And that's really all I want to say about that. I don't know if you guys have anything to say since you live in Canada and not really dealing with this
I think
immediately.
that that was very well said, and I think that that's going to help a lot of people in very uncertain times, right? Everyone's kind of looking to each other for support, and I think that it was great that you took the time to really talk about what was in your heart. Um, yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Heather, do you have any thoughts?
I loved it. I thought that was great. And I always I shouldn't say I always. It does come up in readings from time to time about what I call like creating the safe harbor within. And this is something that I've had to learn myself because I used to have debilitating anxiety to the point where I would be sick automatically. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't function. So meditation was kind of my saving grace. And I always tell people that even if you don't follow a spiritual path, grounding and going into meditation and really creating that safety within is fundamental, especially in the world that we live in, because the external reality is, in my opinion, right now, absolute chaos. So it's like, how can you, trying to think of the right word here, how can you kind of minimize the impact of the external reality by creating that safe harbor within. And I'm very much one. I used to be very big into politics. I used to be very big. I was a news junkie. And probably since about COVID, I just skim because I'm exactly what you said, Robbie, where like I don't want to ignore what's going on. I want to be informed, but I can't allow myself to get completely, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, what's the word I'm looking for here? Completely engulfed in the chaos, right? Because it's just it's a lot. So my heart goes out to everyone who is experiencing, difficulty in these chaotic times because I know it's very hard for people, very hard for people.
Yeah.
It's scary. I've heard from several people this week, people that I've read for that come to me for energy work or readings that have just basically said, I don't know what to do. What can you help me do? And one thing I love that they reached out to me and I was able to help them in the way that I can. But one thing that I do as as a spiritual person, I do want to point out that if you get to a point where you mentally cannot handle it, don't reach out to a spiritualist, reach out to a mental health provider. Okay. Um, they're the ones that will probably be able to help you. I'm not saying that I can't help you, that I can't give you advice, but if you get to a point where you feel like you need immediate help, seek that help. It's not. shameful. There's nothing to be ashamed of. If it helps you, reach out to it. And like I said, I will help anybody, give advice, do readings, do the energy work to help you deal with this. But if you get to a point where you need help, please reach out to a mental health provider. That's that would be my advice on that. So,
Great.
with that being said, I have another topic I want to talk about today. Um, we have a listener that is a dedicated listener that reached out to me after last week's podcast about religion, and they asked me. They gave me a couple of topics actually that they wanted to hear about, and so I'm going to read the whole message I got, and then we can break it down how we want to. But they want to know what our thoughts are on curses. Do we think they're real? And if we do think they're real, how do we break free from one? And specifically wanting to know, do generational curses exist? And the reason they wanted to ask this listener asked a family member one time, why would someone
I can't hear him. Did we lose his voice?
I think so. Can't hear you, but you're not muted.
Yeah, there's something funny happening here. We don't hear you, Robbie.
well, can you hear me now?
I
Oh, we
can.
hear you now. You're gonna have to start from the beginning.
Like how beginning?
I thought it was just me. I was looking at Heather. I was like, is it you too? You don't hear anything?
What's the last thing you heard?
I think
Do we believe in generational curses?
yes.
Okay, so I will repeat again, and I'm not going to edit that out because that's pretty good. The generational curses exist. So, and the reason that the listener wanted to know about generational curses specifically was because they asked a family member one time the question, why would someone who grew up in a country without Christianity go to hell? And the response they got was, generational curses exist, and basically, you're paying for your ancestors' sins. So let's tackle curses first, and then we can talk about ancestral or generational curses. Lara, what do you think
Okay.
about curses?
Oh, way to put me on the spot. First of all, I want to say I don't actually have any expertise in this. I don't know. This is an open conversation and I'm exploring my thoughts along with you guys. Okay. So, okay, if I'm going to sit and think about curses, because I haven't encountered anything like that, I want to say yes and no. I want to say that I don't believe that anybody holds enough power as to curse you. And I don't believe that anybody holds any judgment in the spirit world as to carry that forward. But what I do believe is that um, there is some sort of karmic debt. And I think that this is carried forward by you specifically to yourself in each lifetime. So I believe that we carry that. I also believe that people can in like not curse you, but I believe that people can carry negative intention towards you and they can project that onto you, but you kind of it that's dependent on your own power within yourself, I think, and within like how often you're like if you believe that about yourself, right? Because if somebody is going to wish something negative on you and they're going to summon as much as they can to wish negative upon you, how much can you kind of clear that on your own? I don't know if you're understanding what I'm saying, but like I feel like I need a minute here. Carry on.
Okay. Heather, what do you think?
It's so funny because like Lara and I have such similar beliefs on so many things, and I was already writing stuff down, and my answer is yes and no as well. I do believe in lower vibrational energy, frequency vibration, right? Because a lot of people say we live in duality. We actually live in a trinity because you have like high and then neutral and then low, but regardless. And a lot of times people don't recognize, and I've experienced this myself, where I've had what we call negative thought forms thrown at me. And if you don't clear your energy field, and I've seen this myself, I actually learned this in Reiki, and I've had SRT clearings done, and I have joined the academy. I'll start in May, because I'm very big on clearing like your field. We are energetic beings. To think that, your energy doesn't interact with everything, or doesn't get, I don't want to say cloudy, but energy gets exchanged, right? So you need to clear out what's not yours. And when you're holding on to stuff in your energetic field, it actually can make its way into your inner fields, into the physical. And I've experienced that, where I've had actual physical issues that have, you know, transpired, and I've had a clearing done, and instantaneously that issue is gone. I'm not saying that all physical issues are from spiritual or energetic interference, but it is a thing. But I also agree with Lara that, like, if you give power to something, then it's like you make it real. And no one has any more power over you than yourself. And you need to understand that. You need to stand in your power, but you also need to own your power, and you need to clear and keep your auric field as sovereign as possible. And I think with generational curses, for me, I feel like that is actually unhealed wounds or traumas that people have carried forward. And then you have certain
Yeah.
people, that become like cycle breakers, right? Like they're actually here to, heal and restore like the lineage by breaking away from those, traumatic patterns that have kept families repeating the same patterns throughout lifetimes. I hope that makes sense.
No, it makes
Oh,
sense.
it
And I feel
does.
like you said things that I was trying to find the words to. So I'm really glad that like we share very similar views
We
on
do.
that.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you. Because I'm also a yes and no on curses in general. I have, fortunately or unfortunately, I guess you could say, I have seen people that have suffered from, I guess, what you would call curses being thrown at them. Because
Attachments, yeah.
I've known the person that said it, and then the person that received it, and seen it in action. So it's not that I don't believe that curses can be thrown and put on people, but I do also believe that when you find out that's what it is, can help you determine the course of what happens, right? Kind of like you said, staying in your power and understanding, oh, this is something coming at me. Am I going to work it to get it fixed, or am I just going to succumb to this energy that's being thrown at me, right? And I guess, the next part of that question is, how, if you are in one, how do you break free from one? And that would be part of it, right? It's just understanding your power, standing in your power, and having it done. Now, with that being said, I personally have never and will never, knock on whatever this is, suffer from one. But I think that if you are having things and you're told or know that you have a curse on you, sometimes reaching out to somebody who specializes in that to remove it, would be helpful for you. Because like Heather, I believe in low vibrational entities and energy that can be persistent and can take somebody who has experience in removing those things to get them removed. So while I believe they exist, I do believe that there are a lot of things that happen in people's lives that get blamed on curses that are not actually curses.
Yeah.
Um, it's them not understanding what's going in their life. And especially when it comes to generational curses, which I prefer calling ancestral blocks, because
Hmm.
that's really kind of what they are, right? A lot of people were taught that generational curses mean that we're being punished for what our ancestors did. And that idea alone has caused a lot of fear and shame and spiritual anxiety, right? Because if I'm paying for what they're doing, there's no way out of it. Um, but I do think the idea that someone is being condemned for circumstances they didn't choose, whether where they were born, what religion they were born into, what country they were born into, I think that says more about control-based theology than it does about spirituality. Okay, that you would be blamed for something that your parents did. We're not here to pay for anybody's sins. Um, we're here because we have choice, and choice is what ends these cycles. I guess what I wanted to go with into next is kind of explaining what I think an ancestral block is, and give some examples. Like we said earlier, it's not about being cursed, it's about unresolved stuff in your ancestral line repeating itself, right? And those things can really be summed up in like trauma or survival behaviors, um, or having thoughts like we've always struggled with money. My family's always struggled with money.
It's
No
a
one
big
in this
one.
family, no one in this family ever has a healthy relationship. We just don't talk about our feelings in this family, you know. And the thing about it is, some people sometimes don't choose to repeat it. They just default to it because that's all they've ever known, right? If my family's never had money, what's the expectation that I would have, right? How can I fix that? And I always tell people when I'm working with them, when I find these blocks or limiting beliefs, because these blocks do create limiting beliefs. That's one right there, right? I can't make enough money to get out of this curse. That limits you right there, that you're not going to make money to get out of this curse or block. But I always
Yeah.
tell people that 90% of getting out of these blocks is just understanding what they are, right? Because it changes your thought patterns. And when you bring it up, it changes your mentality about it, and you start making the choices different than your ancestors did or different than your family did. And I think that's one reason why I've been called a generational curse breaker in my family, which
Me
I have.
too.
I'm breaking a lot of them. Um, but that's usually we're usually the black sheeps, the cycle, the ones that can see things others can't. And it's because we're choosing different responses than our ancestors did. So when you get called, one of those curse breakers, that's what you're doing. You're making conscious choices against a pattern that you've seen evolving, right? What do you guys think about that?
I think that that makes a lot of sense. I've actually had similar experiences. Um, my family, I know of a lot of different family members that carry very similar
Mhm.
I want to say gifts. I feel like everybody has gifts, but I feel like they have very similar experiences as me. And I kind of ventured out and chose to do something instead of hide that away. So that's breaking those patterns, right? And the same, like just in regular day-to-day life, right? We encounter that all the time. We can choose to either repeat the cycle or choose to start to break it. And we may not be the one that breaks it entirely, but at least we're taking the steps to kind of do that. And that makes a lot of sense in, people just being uneducated on the fact that curses and ancestral blocks can be considered the same. And we're going to, refer to them as curses because we're not sure what that means, right? So yeah, I think a lot of people just aren't really sure what it is that they're encountering. And there's a lot of fear based around this too. People thinking that, they're kind of putting negative entities, curses and all of that kind of in the same block here, right? And they're assuming that all these things that are transpiring are all they're very fear-based, right? And we get afraid
Yeah.
because it's things we don't know about, we don't know who to trust, and that's where you really have to use your discernment when you are looking at this. And I can't tell you, like, I know we're all a part of this group online and how many people we see that are afraid of the things that are happening within their home. And the thing is a lot of the time it's just not being educated on what is happening. And this fear that we've grown up with, thinking that these terrible things are going to happen to us, is like we see them in the movies and stuff like that. So people just aren't sure, and it's like a whole different world out there that nobody's ever really encountered, right? So I think that that's where the curses comes from, is just fear specifically.
And I'm glad you said that, because that's actually one of the reasons that I refer to it as an ancestral block, because referring to it as ancestral curse, that word curse automatically puts that negative, I can't get rid of it on it,
Yeah.
right? Or if you approach it as a block, it's, oh, okay, it's a block. Let's work through it, right?
Overcome it.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Heather, what do you think?
I'm just a believer that everything can be transmuted. Like, I feel like when people buy into this whole, like, you could have something in your house that, could be causing, you know, it could be making noises. You could
Disruption.
hear like disruptions, right? Like the feet running on the floor a lot of the times, or like electronics. But a lot of times people always go to the negative. They think it's like something bad. Most times it's just a family member or spirit saying hello. But
Or
we
a playful spirit.
automatically, yeah, we automatically assume that it's bad. And I'm not saying that there aren't, lower I call them lower vibrational energies frequencies, vibrations, entities, whatever you want to say. I kind of group it into like that. And I feel like people automatically, go to that, but I feel like fear breeds fear. So, and that's what they feast on. They feast on your fear, right? So I feel like you stand in your power, you have a house clearing done. I'm very big on like sound frequencies. I play them every single day before I do any spiritual work, after I do spiritual work. You guys know I'm huge on like the ultraviolet cleansing. I will
Yeah.
literally picture myself going up a mountain. I've got this new one now that's shorter and condensed. I go into a fountain of like ultraviolet light, and I just picture like everything being cleared that's not mine. Because a lot of times where this stuff comes from is because, again, we're energetic beings. We're picking up on so much of other people's stuff, and people don't know how to clear it. And there are people that I call bouncers. My dad is one. He doesn't really hold on to a lot of people's stuff, where me, like, I feel like, especially in the spiritual realm, because we're so sensitive, it's even more so important for us to clear our fields, because we pick up on so much, right? It's like we're like an energetic sponge. So you really need to
Yeah.
like clear that field. I know with my family, there is actually a generational block. Like, and I agree with Robbie on that saying, because I feel like it makes so much sense, and it describes it perfectly. Where in my family, for example, we all have um, stomach issues. And that has gone through my family, my mom and all her brothers and her parents. And that is something that I've dealt with. Even like when I've gotten clearings done, I have a tendency to hold a lot of energy in my lower chakras, especially my sacral. That was probably one of my weakest. And a lot of times where I was getting interference was actually in that region, because it wasn't being cleared, it wasn't being protected properly. And a lot of times too, with those lower chakras, a lot of it can be like, Robbie said, money issues. My mom came from a poor family, like safety, security, guilt, shame, a lot of those heavy, heavy emotions that sit in those lower chakras. Um, so I've seen like in my family, and I've worked really hard at clearing those energetic blockages, because I don't want this to continue on to the next generation. I am the cycle breaker, and I do believe that everything can be transmuted. So yeah, I think people underestimate their own power. I think people, are so willing to freely just give it away, instead of saying like, no, like I am this powerful being. I do have, control over my sovereignty, and I need to, stand in my power in my space, and know that you really can like, have a sacred place that is energetically protected. You just need the right tools, the right information. There's a lot of fear out there. I grew up, watching the movies thinking, all this bad stuff is going to happen, when actuality, like a lot of it changed once I started to realize like how powerful I really am, and how much control I really do have. And I need to take ownership of my energy. And I always tell people, the higher you raise your vibration, it's almost like the lower stuff, it's like you're invisible, because what energy needs to do is it either needs to come up and match you, or you need to come down and meet it, or you need to go separate ways. Like that's the way that it works. So if you're vibing high,
Yeah.
it's almost like you're got this invisible shield on, because those lower vibrational energies, like they're going after people that are resonating in super low frequencies, right? So it's like your best bet. I always say, I love sports analogies. Like your best defense is, or what is it? Your best offense is your best defense. I can't even remember right now.
I think
But
I've
I
heard
Asking the
that.
wrong person here. I don't know.
but I feel like work on standing in your power, work on maintaining your sovereignty, and clearing like your energetic fields on a regular basis, even if you don't do spiritual work, because again, we're all energy, we're all like intermingling, and you need to clear that stuff, especially if you're someone like us, that you're like empathetic, you're very sensitive. It's like your sponge. So you really need to clear out that stuff. I hope that made sense.
It made
That was a
sense.
lot.
And I just wanted to say, as we were talking here, that gave me two ideas for, future conversations that we need to have bigger conversations about. One being how energy kind of sits within your different, in your
Mhm.
physical body and how it manifests itself. But another one that I wanted to bring up while we're still on this topic is I know I've spoken with Robbie about this, having we were talking about negative energies and negative entities, okay? And I think bigger conversations need to be had on this. But for me, my encounter with this, and I know everyone's belief systems is different, and I'm open to all of it. But my experience with it was negative thought patterns. And I think a lot of people don't realize that not all of it is like some weird demonic energy that is manifesting or latching to you, but more so a thought pattern that has embedded itself within you and kind of forced that on you. Like there's been times where I've really struggled with this, right? And I've reached out to both of you and we've, had conversations about this, but I think a lot of people don't realize that it's those thought patterns that really latch to us and that they just keep looping and looping and looping, right? And that's been a struggle. And I think we need to work on teaching people how to help like notice this and clear it, right? Because when you encounter that, it is really hard, even for me, like who is aware of this. When I encountered that, I felt stuck. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how, like, I needed your guys' help to, like, really just center me and help me move past it. And what's funny is when I did encounter that, Robbie was like, I had just, worked with somebody that had, the exact same experience. And so that right there was very eye-opening. I was like, I don't know what's going on out there, but we tend to pick up on energy, even through our social media and things like that. Like
It's
energy
huge.
can actually transpire that easily. And I know people are going to be like, oh my God, I watch these scary videos now and they're going to latch to me. I believe there are low vibrational energies. I believe that there is, I believe like when there is activity within your house, sometimes it's more of an energy imprint rather than a spirit.
Hmm.
And sometimes, it's just, a family member or like a happy, you know, spirit child
Yeah.
running
You
around.
know, and I think a good example of that is something that I think has happened to us all is like we wake up and we're in a bad mood. We have no idea why, right? So we walk by the door and the doorknob grabs our shirt and it pisses us off even more. And then we walk in to brush our teeth and we drop the toothbrush on the
Just
floor
spiral.
and it spirals. And some people could think I have an entity that's messing with me. No,
No.
it's just your energy is down in this area that you're effing everything up for yourself, right? So I think that was a good explanation of
Seeing all the people post
of of
online
of that happening.
about,
Yeah,
yeah, seeing all the people post online about how fearful they are of what's going on. And I wish I could tell everybody, like, it is the energy that you're giving to it that is, not manifesting it, but it's amplifying it, right? I think everyone should learn how to not only just ground and clear your energy. I think that's beneficial for everyone, not just mediums, not just people that, are doing energy work. Grounding and clearing your energy is so important, and not enough people know how to do it and how it can just really change your perspective on things and just center you in general, right? And how to clear your home. Now, when you are clearing your home of, say, these negative energies or curses, and you really just want to, like, okay, I want a fresh slate. One of the most important things I'm going to honestly say, and this is not spiritual, this is just being human. It's clearing your space in your house of like clutter.
Yeah.
yeah,
Clutter, right? Like you cannot
absolutely.
clear energy and feel good in a place that is cluttered. Each thing that you have in your house carries some sort of energy on it, right? From we touch it, people associate with it, we've gotten it secondhand, right? So if you're having like disruptions in your house, they're new. Maybe it's something that you've brought in through marketplace or, clearing the clutter, clearing your space, opening windows in your house, and really just starting healthy kind of steps to really just remove that, right? Um, yeah, I think a bigger conversation needs to be had on that for people because I don't think enough people know how to clear their space.
I do want to
Yeah,
say though
I,
too. Sorry, guys. Is it okay if I just have a little?
absolutely. No, you're good. No,
For me, a lot of times people don't realize like the power of their thoughts, the power of their mind, because a lot of the energy gets thrown at people is actually thought forms that are created in like the 3D, like
Yeah,
the human consciousness. Because if you go up to 5D, right, like if we're talking like what people would call heaven or like the afterlife, none of that stuff exists. Those are 3D, that's a 3D construct, right? And it's created by the human consciousness. That's why I always tell people it's so important what you're saying to yourself, what you think, what you're directing at other people. And I know from having, professional clearings done on myself, I've had quite a few things thrown at me that are direct, like that are a result of a human thought form that was sitting in my energy field that I didn't clear properly. And I do think too, sometimes I feel like there's also a lesson for that person that's involved in that too. Because of the work that I do, it was very important for me to learn how to properly clear my energy field. You like, if you're going to be doing this type of work, you can't just jump in the pool full of all kinds of people and expect to be clear. right? Like you got to get out of the pool and you got to shower like you would at a, a public pool, right? Because you're going to be full of like chlorine and salt or so
And
Yeah.
other people's pee. I mean, let's face it, that they do it. Let's just
yeah. Like it's the same as taking a shower. You need to energetically cleanse your body. So I hope that clears it up for people.
yeah. I
Yeah.
don't disagree. I know that when sometimes when I'm feeling down or something, just getting up and rearranging my living room or just cleaning
Mm,
things makes me feel better. One, I'm getting up and getting my energy moving, but two, I'm getting kind of stale energy out of my house and cleansing it using sound or Palo Santo, whatever it is that you use to cleanse your house. That really helps me. And I mean, some people,
Exercising.
yeah, extra what? No, let's not go so far. No, I get
No,
you. Yeah,
seriously,
moving your body
a
around.
walk,
Yeah,
anything that gets you moving clears that energy. I know nobody wants to hear that, right? But
but
that's the
it's
truth.
true. It's very true. Get some of that stuff moving around your body, right? So, I think we pretty much touched on the generational curse or generational block thing. But one thing I do want to say to kind of close that up is if generational curses or blocks were punishment, there would be no way out of it, right? The fact that these cycles can be
very
interrupted
few.
tells us that they were never curses to begin with. They're just things that we need to recognize and work on. Um, which is interesting because I know in energy work that we do, a lot of this is working on generational blocks. And I think one thing that people should know about that is it's not that we're going in to remove them. What the energy does is helps bring it to the surface, help you recognize it, and help you how to deal with it. Because I've worked with a lot of people, they had no idea what their generational block was until I brought it up, and they go, "You're exactly right. This is exactly what's happened." And now that I know, I can fix it. So
Hmm.
that's one thing that I know I offer in my services, and I know that you guys offer in yours is being able to show people what it is that's holding them back from getting on their best path. And that's why I love doing this work, is because it may sound cheesy, but we do help people one person at a time to make their lives better. And I love it. I love it.
Yeah, same with me. Any small change helps, right?
Absolutely. So
All right.
I think this was a pretty good episode, don't you guys?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
I feel
It
like
That
we
was
I'm
a little
talked
jotting
more
heavy.
than
down
normal.
ideas while we were on this. I was like jotting down ideas in my phone. I'm like, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this. So stay tuned,
Good.
guys, because I've got like 5 topics listed in my phone here for
Yeah.
our
Yes.
next
Nice.
conversation.
And please, if any of you out there have any ideas or questions or topics like the one
Mhm.
for today, please let us know. Keep them coming.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you and know what you want to know because as you can tell, we'll talk about it as open and honestly as we can with each other, even if we disagree.
Yes, and don't forget to like and subscribe so we can reach more people. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.